So at the RAN, we first started with developing a conceptual model, and many of you have seen this, right? Where we said it starts first with understanding the context. What is happening in these communities? What is happening at the regional level? What is happening at the national level? And that's what we were able to hear from you a little bit, a snapshot about that context. And all of our labs over the years have gone into the communities to be able to identify that context. And based upon that context, they prioritize. Right? They have said that all of these communities face many, many risks. But what are those biggest challenges? Because again, we're talking about finite resources. So for example, we've seen in Uganda and the East Africa lab, they're concerned about climate durability, those challenges. Okay? They're concerned about conflict. In the context of the South Africa lab, they were concerned about the high prevalence rates in terms of the burden of HIV in households and food security. And there's been a whole range of issues here around chronic displacement, food security, and the point here is not necessarily to say that these issues are static. It's to say that this lab and the various labs and the universities have a wealth of experience trying to better understand these various shocks and stressors. So we move from the qualitative context, which is critical, to then develop a theoretical model. So given a community that is faced with conflict, what are those capacities that they draw upon to be able to mitigate that shock? Because perhaps a community that is faced with conflict compared to a community that is faced with climate variability, they draw different capacities. So again, using that evidence within the communities, that qualitative context, each of our labs to develop a theoretical model that identifies those relevant, those salient capacities, whether they are wealth, human capital, social cohesion. And then we develop contextualized indicators to represent those dimensions. Because again, there is no one size fits all. We have to go beyond saying we're going to increase livelihood and create wealth. Well, that is different in different contexts if you're dealing with an urban environment versus a pastoral society. So again, to understand what is happening, to provide that evidence, we have to understand the context, we have to develop appropriate indicators. And then the RAM has then attempted to validate that theoretical model to be able to then develop a quantitative tool where they've gone into communities to be able to collect and provide analysis. So I'm going to quickly go through this conceptual model and then apply that with a recent study that we helped carry out in Mali, because I know that tomorrow each of your labs will then be able to discuss what they've done in their context. So I don't want to replicate things. But again, as I note here, each of the labs have developed specific indicators that are based upon the context, based upon the dimensions. Okay? And we have developed a quantitative formula that helps to be able to measure resilience. And we measure resilience at different levels. We measure resilience at the individual and the household level, up to the community level, up to the society level. So for us, it's a systems approach to measuring resilience. Okay? But we go beyond just measuring resilience, because again, you'll start to see here when I apply this, is that let's say you have a numerical figure. So perhaps in the context of Uganda, resilience up in Gulu is 3.2 versus resilience in Kampala is 6.2. What does that tell us, right? It may tell us that perhaps more investments need to flow into areas that are less resilient. But how? What and how, and what are those investments? Is it in healthcare? Is it in education? Is it in infrastructure? So we move beyond just a numerical quantitative measurement. We also start looking at those associations.